If you get back on that train, make sure you are going somewhere you actually chose. The stranger said it as if she knew me, as if she could see the wedding ring hidden in my coat pocket and the 26 years folded behind it. 3 hours earlier, I had been standing beneath the high ceiling of Portland Union Station, staring at my ticket like it contained instructions for becoming a person again. My name is Laura Bennett. I am 52 years old, and until 6 months ago, I had been married for more than half my life. The divorce was not dramatic. No shattered dishes. No terrible public betrayal. Just two people sitting across from each other at a kitchen table, finally admitting that being familiar was not the same as being happy. I had spent 26 years as a wife, 29 as a high school English teacher, and 31 as a mother if you counted pregnancy, which my daughter insisted I should not. Now my daughter lived in Denver, my classroom belonged to someone younger, and my former husband had taken the good coffee grinder. I had no idea what belonged to me anymore. So I bought a train ticket, Portland to Seattle, then north toward Vancouver. It was a trip I had once planned with my husband and postponed so many times that eventually the brochure disappeared into a drawer. I found it while packing his remaining things. 2 days later I booked the journey for one. That morning, Portland rain tapped against the station windows. Wheels clicked over tile. Announcements echoed above conversations and rolling luggage. Everyone seemed to know where they were going except me. I checked my ticket again. Track information. Departure time. Seat assignment. Then again, because apparently divorce had transformed me into a woman who required written confirmation before moving 20 feet. You know it will still say the same thing. The voice came from my right. I turned. A woman stood beside me holding a camera bag and a paper coffee cup. Mid-40s maybe. Dark blonde hair tucked behind one ear. Gray eyes that seemed amused without being unkind. Excuse me. Your ticket. She nodded toward my hand. You have checked it 4 times. You were counting? I am a photographer. Observing people is an occupational problem. I should have found her intrusive. Instead, I almost smiled. Maybe I enjoy being prepared. Then you should probably know you are waiting for the wrong platform. I looked at the board, then my ticket, then the board again. She pointed toward the opposite side of the station. They changed it 5 minutes ago. Of course they did. She smiled. First solo trip? My fingers tightened around the ticket. Is it that obvious? Her gaze dropped briefly to my suitcase, then returned to my face. Only because you keep checking your ticket like somebody might tell you that you are not allowed to go. The words landed harder than they had any right to. Before I could answer, another announcement filled the station. Boarding would begin shortly. I thanked her and started toward the correct platform. Halfway there, I reached into my coat pocket and touched the ring I had removed that morning but could not leave at home. I almost turned around. Instead, I kept walking. 20 minutes later, I found my seat beside the window, placed my bag overhead and finally exhaled. Then someone stopped across the aisle. I looked up. Camera bag. Paper coffee cup. Gray eyes. The stranger raised one eyebrow. Apparently, she said, we are going in the same direction. And for reasons I could not explain, that frightened me more than traveling alone. The woman across the aisle introduced herself 20 minutes outside Portland. Rachel Hayes, she said, offering her hand across the narrow space between our seats. Laura Bennett. Her handshake was warm and brief. No performance. No lingering. Still I noticed it. I noticed too much about her after that. The silver ring on her right thumb. The worn leather strap on her camera. The way she looked through the window whenever conversation paused, as if silence did not make her nervous. Silence had made me nervous for years. I had filled it with grocery lists, lesson plans, appointments, questions nobody had asked. Rachel seemed perfectly comfortable leaving empty spaces alone. Outside, wet fields stretched beneath a low gray sky. Evergreen trees blurred past the glass. So where are you headed? She asked. Vancouver eventually. Eventually sounds promising. It means I have reservations. She smiled. Of course you do. You have known me for approximately 30 minutes. And you checked your hotel confirmation twice after sitting down. I looked at my phone. You really do watch people. Only interesting ones. I turned toward the window before she could see the warmth rise into my face. At 52, I should have been beyond reacting to a casual compliment from a stranger. Apparently nobody had informed my nervous system. Around noon, Rachel disappeared toward the observation car. I stayed behind for 7 minutes before admitting I wanted coffee. That was the explanation I gave myself. She was sitting beside a wide window when I arrived, camera resting on the table. "There she is," Rachel said. "The woman with reservations." "I came for coffee." Naturally. I sat across from her. Rain streaked the glass while the landscape opened into dark rivers, distant hills, and small towns that seemed to vanish almost as soon as we saw them. Rachel lifted her camera several times. Trees, bridges, an abandoned barn. Never people. "You are a travel photographer who avoids photographing travelers?" I asked. Her finger paused near the shutter. "Landscapes do not complain about bad angles. That cannot be the real reason." Her smile faded by half an inch. "People leave." The answer was so quiet I almost thought I had imagined it. Before I could ask anything else, the train slowed. An announcement followed. Heavy weather farther north had disrupted service. We would continue to the next scheduled stop, but passengers connecting northbound would need to disembark and take a shuttle the following morning. A chorus of disappointed voices moved through the car. My stomach tightened automatically. My hotel. My connection. My carefully constructed itinerary. I reached for my phone. Rachel watched me. "You are doing it again." "Doing what?" "Trying to organize something that has already changed. Some of us find planning comforting. Does it work?" I opened my mouth then closed it. Rachel looked back toward the rain. "For what it is worth, I am getting off at the same stop." That should not have comforted me. It did. By late afternoon, we stepped onto a small wet platform with about 20 other passengers. Cold air slipped beneath my coat. I stood beside my suitcase while Rachel adjusted her camera bag. "The shuttle leaves at 8 tomorrow morning," she said, "which gives us roughly 15 hours somewhere neither of us intended to be." I looked toward the unfamiliar town beyond the station. For most of my life, an unexpected change had felt like a problem waiting for me to solve it. Then Rachel glanced at me with that almost smile. "Still wish you had stayed home?" I touched the ring inside my pocket. For the first time since leaving Portland, my answer came without calculation. "No." The station agent gave us a list of 3 nearby hotels, and by the time Rachel and I reached the first one, the lobby looked like every stranded passenger had arrived before us. A tired clerk checked her computer and shook her head. 2 rooms left. I nearly laughed with relief. Rachel glanced at me. "Your planning instincts survive another day. Never underestimate a woman with backup credit cards." We took separate rooms across the hall from each other, which should have restored the comfortable distance between strangers. Instead, 20 minutes later, Rachel knocked on my door. "There is a diner half a mile away. I am hungry enough to forgive mediocre coffee." I should have stayed in. I had crackers in my suitcase. I had emails I could answer. I had spent decades becoming excellent at choosing the sensible option. "Give me 5 minutes," I said. Rain had softened to a mist when we stepped outside. Rachel opened a black umbrella, and we walked beneath it together because mine was buried somewhere under 3 sweaters I had packed unnecessarily. Our shoulders brushed once. Then again. Neither of us mentioned it. The diner had red vinyl booths, chipped white mugs, and a waitress who called everyone honey. Rachel ordered grilled cheese and tomato soup. I ordered the same mostly because choosing suddenly felt exhausting. "Tell me something you did not plan," Rachel said. "This dinner." "That barely counts." I looked through the window at headlights moving across wet pavement. "I retired early." Her expression changed. "You were a teacher?" "English. 29 years. Did you love it?" "Yes." I paused. Until I realized I could not remember whether I still did. Rachel did not rush to fill the silence. That was becoming dangerous. "And the trip?" she asked. I traced one finger around my coffee mug. "My former husband and I planned it years ago." There. The first time I had said former husband to her. Rachel only nodded. "No pity. How long were you married?" 26 years. "That is a lot of life." "It is. But not all of it." I looked at her. She had already turned toward the window. After dinner, the rain returned harder. We shared the umbrella again, walking closer this time. Rachel told me about photographing fishing towns in Maine and desert roads in Arizona. I told her about students who still sent me Christmas cards. Somewhere between the diner and the hotel, I laughed so suddenly that I had to stop walking. Rachel stopped too. "What?" I asked. She had lifted her camera. Click. "Rachel." "Sorry." She lowered it immediately. "You looked happy." The sentence took the laughter out of me, not because it offended me, but because I could not remember the last photograph in which happiness had arrived before I knew someone was watching. "Delete it." Rachel studied my face. "If you want me to, I will." I hesitated. "Not tonight." Her expression softened. Back in my room, I removed my coat and found my phone flashing on the bed. A message from my former husband. I almost ignored it. Then I read the first line. "Laura, I wanted you to hear this from me before someone else tells you." My hand went cold around the phone. He was engaged. 6 months after our divorce. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at those words until they blurred. I did not want him back. That was what surprised me. The pain came from somewhere else. He had already stepped into his next life while I was carrying our wedding ring across state lines like evidence from a life I could not release. Across the hall, I heard Rachel's door close softly. For one irrational second, I wanted to knock. Instead, I reached into my coat pocket, placed the ring in my palm, and finally asked myself the question I had avoided since Portland. If my old life was truly over, what exactly was I waiting for before beginning the next one? Morning arrived gray and wet, and I had slept perhaps 3 hours. At 7:15, I carried my suitcase downstairs and found Rachel near the lobby window with 2 coffees. She held one toward me. Black, 1 packet of sugar. I stared at it. "How do you know that?" "Yesterday. Observation car." She shrugged. "Occupational problem." I accepted the cup, unexpectedly moved by being remembered. Rachel's smile disappeared when she studied my face. "Bad night." For several seconds, I considered giving her the polished answer I had given everyone since the divorce. Instead, I said, "My former husband is getting married." Rachel did not offer sympathy immediately. "How does that make you feel?" "Embarrassed." That was not one of the obvious choices. "I do not want him back." I looked through the window at the wet street. "I think I am embarrassed because he knows what his next life looks like, and I am still carrying my old one in my pocket." Rachel's eyes lowered toward my coat, but she asked nothing. We walked to the station beneath her umbrella. The morning shuttle had been delayed another hour, leaving us with nowhere to go except a covered bench overlooking the tracks. Rachel sat beside me. "Can I show you something?" She opened her camera and found the photograph from the previous night. There I was beneath the umbrella, head tilted back, laughing. Rain shimmered behind me. My hair was damp. My coat hung open. I looked unguarded. Alive. I stared at the image longer than I intended. That does not look like me. It does from where I was standing. Something shifted inside my chest. I spent years avoiding cameras. Why? I never liked photographs of myself. Rachel looked at the screen, then at me. "Maybe you were looking for the woman everyone expected instead of the woman who was actually there." I laughed softly. "Do photographers always talk like fortune cookies before breakfast?" "Only when undercaffeinated." I smiled, then noticed another photograph as her thumb moved across the screen. 2 women beside a lake. Rachel was younger, her hair longer, her face open in a way I had not seen. Beside her stood a woman with red hair, leaning comfortably against her shoulder. Rachel immediately stopped scrolling. "I am sorry," I said. "You did not do anything." Her voice had changed. "Who is she?" Rachel looked toward the tracks. For a moment I thought she would refuse. "Emily." The name came quietly. "My partner." I waited. "We were together 9 years." Rachel closed the camera. "She died 4 years ago after an illness." There was no drama in the way she said it. That made the grief feel heavier. "Rachel, I am sorry." She nodded. "Afterward, everyone told me to give myself time. So I did. Then I gave myself distance. Maine, Arizona, Montana, anywhere that was not the house we shared." Suddenly her constant movement looked different. Not freedom. Survival disguised as motion. Is that why you photograph places instead of people? Rachel gave me a sad smile. Places do not become someone you miss. The station announcement interrupted us. Our shuttle was ready. People began gathering their bags, but neither of us stood immediately. I reached toward Rachel's hand, then stopped just short of touching it. She noticed. Slowly, she turned her palm upward on the bench between us. I placed my hand in hers. Nothing dramatic happened. No certainty arrived. But her fingers closed gently around mine, and for the first time since my divorce, I understood that beginning again might not feel like leaving the past behind. It might feel like carrying it differently. By the time the shuttle delivered us to the next station, holding Rachel's hand had become the most significant thing I had done without planning in years. We released each other before stepping off, but my palm seemed to remember hers. Our replacement train arrived shortly after noon. This time our assigned seats were several rows apart. I told myself that was probably healthy. 20 minutes later, Rachel appeared beside me. The observation car has better windows. Is that your professional assessment? Absolutely. I followed her. We spent the afternoon watching rivers widen beneath a pale sky while mountains appeared and disappeared behind clouds. Something had changed between us. Not enough to name. Enough to notice. Rachel knew when I wanted coffee before I stood up. I knew she rubbed the silver ring on her thumb whenever a station announcement mentioned delays. We talked about small things because the larger things were sitting between us already. At one point the train shifted gently around a curve, and my hand moved against hers on the armrest. Neither of us pulled away. My heartbeat became embarrassingly noticeable. Rachel looked at our hands, then at me. Laura. There was a question in my name. I turned toward the window. I do not know what I am doing. Neither do I. You seem considerably better at it. She smiled. That is because you met me after 46 years of practice pretending I know things. I laughed, but the nervousness remained. I have never felt this way about a woman. Saying it aloud changed the air. Rachel did not look surprised. She did not look triumphant either. She simply waited. I was married to a man for 26 years, I continued. I loved him. At least I know I loved parts of the life we built. So I do not understand what this says about me. Rachel's voice softened. Maybe it only says something about who you are right now. That sounds suspiciously simple. It is not simple. She turned her hand slightly beneath mine. But you do not owe me a label. The kindness of that nearly undid me. I looked at her face, at the fine lines near her eyes, at the strand of dark blonde hair that had fallen loose beside her cheek. For once I did not ask myself what I was supposed to feel. I only noticed what was already there. Rachel leaned closer, slowly enough that I could have moved away. I did not. Then, inches before the moment became something else, fear rose through me. Wait. Rachel stopped immediately. Okay. I pulled my hand back. I am sorry. Do not be. I wanted to. I know. That somehow makes this worse. Or more honest. She returned her attention to the passing landscape, giving me room without withdrawing warmth. Minutes later, her phone lit up on the table. She glanced at the screen and turned it face down too quickly. I caught only 3 words before it disappeared. Iceland assignment confirmation. Something cold moved through me. Rachel. She looked at me. What is in Iceland? For the first time since we met, she had no easy answer. For several seconds, the only sound between us was the steady rhythm of the train beneath our feet. Rachel finally picked up her phone, but she did not unlock it. It is a photography assignment, she said. In Iceland. I gathered that much. A magazine offered it to me months ago. I watched the landscape move beyond her shoulder. Months ago. Yes. And you are going? She hesitated. That hesitation bothered me more than a simple yes would have. I have not signed the final contract. I folded my hands in my lap. How long? A year. The word landed quietly and stayed there. I reminded myself that Rachel and I had known each other for barely 2 days. She owed me nothing. Not an explanation. Not a revised future. Certainly not a decision about Iceland. Still, disappointment moved through me with humiliating speed. That is a long assignment. It is. When would you leave? Soon. I looked at her. How soon? After Vancouver. I let out a small breath. So this entire time you knew you were leaving? Rachel's expression tightened. Laura, I was traveling north before I met you. I know. And until about 10 minutes ago, I did not even know whether you wanted me to sit this close to you. That was fair. I hated that it was fair. I stood. I need some air. Rachel glanced toward the sealed train windows. That might be difficult. Despite myself, I laughed. The tension loosened just enough. Then I need bad coffee. She let me go alone. I stood near the cafe counter with a paper cup warming my hands and realized what frightened me. It was not Iceland. It was how quickly I had begun measuring the journey by Rachel's presence. I had spent 6 months trying to learn how not to build my identity around another person. And now a woman with gray eyes and a camera had entered my life for 48 hours and rearranged the furniture in my head. When I returned, Rachel was still at the table. She had moved to the seat across from mine, leaving me space. I am sorry, I said. You do not need to apologize. I do. I made your opportunity about me. Rachel looked down at her hands. Maybe I should have told you earlier. Why did you not? She considered the question. Because for the first time in 4 years, I was enjoying where I was instead of thinking about where I could go next. My chest tightened. Rachel met my eyes. That scared me. You do not look scared very often. Neither do you. I am terrified almost constantly. Her smile returned, small and warm. The train began slowing as Seattle appeared beyond the windows, silver buildings beneath a washed-out sky. Rachel reached across the table, stopping before touching my hand. This time I closed the distance myself. I still do not know what this is, I whispered. Then we do not name it yet. And Iceland. I need to decide what I actually want, not what grief taught me to keep doing. The words echoed something I had been trying to understand about myself. Outside, tracks multiplied as we approached the station. Soon we would have choices again. Different hotels. Different streets. Different directions. I looked down at our joined hands and realized forced proximity had been the easy part. The difficult part would begin when staying close became a choice. Seattle should have felt like a pause. Instead, it felt like a deadline. Rachel and I stepped into the station beneath the echo of announcements and rolling suitcases, our hands no longer touching. I told myself that meant nothing. Then her phone rang. She looked at the screen and said, I need to take this. I walked toward a row of tall windows while she answered several yards away. I tried not to listen. I failed. Yes, I understand the departure date, she said. A pause. Vancouver first, then I can fly out. My stomach tightened. Another pause. Yes. I know the original commitment was 12 months. Original commitment. Not possibility. Not vague opportunity. Commitment. When Rachel ended the call, she found me watching her. You already accepted it. She went still. Not completely. That is not what you told me. I said I had not signed the final contract. That is a very careful sentence. Her face changed. Laura, were you ever seriously considering staying? Staying where? We met 2 days ago. The words were reasonable. They still hurt. Exactly. I picked up my suitcase handle. So maybe I forgot that. Rachel stepped closer. I did not ask you to build a future around me. No. You just let me believe there might be one. I told you about Iceland. After I saw the message. She looked away, and that was answer enough. People moved around us in every direction. For a moment, the station felt impossibly loud. Why did you hide it? I asked. Rachel exhaled slowly. Because I liked being with you. Because I knew this journey had an ending. And I wanted one thing in my life that did not have to become a decision immediately. I am not a vacation memory. I never said you were. Then what am I? Rachel's eyes met mine. There was pain there, but no easy answer. I do not know yet. I swallowed. Neither do I. But I know I cannot spend another year waiting for someone else to decide whether there is room for me. And I cannot promise you forever because you are frightened of uncertainty. The sentence landed cleanly. I looked at her. You think this is only fear? I think you want a guarantee before you will admit what you feel. And I think you keep moving so nobody can ask you to stay. Rachel's expression closed. I regretted it immediately because I knew exactly whose absence I had touched. That was unfair. It was also partly true. Her voice was quiet. An announcement called passengers continuing north. Rachel's train. Our train technically. I looked toward the platform entrance. My ticket was in my coat pocket beside my wedding ring. 2 different pieces of paper and metal telling me where I had been, and where I was supposed to go. I am staying in Seattle, I said. Rachel stared at me. Laura, do not change your trip because of an argument. I am changing it because I need to know I can choose something without following someone. Her eyes softened. That sounds different. It is. The boarding announcement came again. Rachel adjusted the strap of her camera bag. Neither of us moved toward the other. I hope you find what you came looking for, she said. I shook my head. I do not think I came looking for anything. Maybe that was the problem. She turned and walked toward the platform. I watched until the crowd swallowed her. Then I stepped outside into the Seattle rain alone. For the first time since Portland, nobody was beside me telling me where to go. And for the first time in 26 years, I understood that being left with a choice was not the same thing as being left behind. Seattle gave me no instructions, which turned out to be exactly what I needed. I found a small hotel near Pioneer Square and booked one night instead of planning the entire week. The next morning, I walked until the city stopped feeling like a place where Rachel had left me and started feeling like somewhere I had chosen to remain. I bought coffee from a corner cafe without checking reviews. I wandered through Pike Place Market with nowhere urgent to be. I stood near the waterfront and watched ferries cross Elliott Bay beneath a silver sky. When one departed, I bought a ticket for the next one simply because I could. On the upper deck, cold wind pushed my hair across my face. Seattle grew smaller behind me. I reached automatically for my phone to photograph the water, then remembered Rachel lifting her camera beneath that umbrella. You looked happy. I turned the phone toward myself. My first photograph was terrible. My second was worse. By the third I was laughing. This time nobody had to catch me doing it. That afternoon my daughter called. Mom, where are you? On a ferry. Silence. Voluntarily. Very funny. You hate boats. Apparently I hate being told what I hate. She laughed, then asked if I was all right. I looked across the water. I think I am becoming all right. I told her about her father's engagement. Then carefully I told her about Rachel. Not everything. Just enough. She is a woman, I finally said. My daughter was quiet for one heartbeat. Okay. I blinked. That is all. Do you want a PowerPoint presentation? I laughed so hard a woman nearby smiled at me. My daughter's voice softened. Does she make you happy? I watched gulls circle above the ferry. She made me notice I could be. That answer stayed with me. Rachel had not rescued me. She had not given me courage, identity, or permission. She had simply looked at me closely enough that I began looking at myself. Back at the hotel, I removed the wedding ring from my coat pocket. I had imagined some dramatic goodbye, but throwing away 26 years felt dishonest. My marriage had been real. So was its ending. I placed the ring inside a small jewelry box in my suitcase and closed the lid. Then I opened my laptop and changed my reservation. Vancouver. Tomorrow morning. My hands did not shake. I was not going there to stop Rachel from leaving. I was not going to ask her to choose me instead of Iceland. I was going because I finally knew what I wanted to say regardless of her answer. That night, Rachel sent the first message since Seattle. I have rewritten this 6 times. I am sorry I let fear disguise itself as freedom. I stared at the words. Then another message appeared. I am in Vancouver until tomorrow afternoon. After that, I have a decision to make. I typed several answers and erased them all. Finally, I wrote only 4 words. So do I. At sunrise, I carried my suitcase back into the station. I did not touch my old ring. I did not check my ticket 4 times. Once was enough. When the train began moving north, I watched Seattle disappear behind the rain and understood something that would have terrified the woman who left Portland. I still did not know how this would end. I was going anyway. When I stepped onto the platform in Vancouver, Rachel was standing beneath the departure board with her camera bag at her feet. She saw me before I could prepare myself. Surprise crossed her face, followed by something softer. Laura, I need to say this before I become sensible again. That almost made her smile. I stopped a few feet away. Go to Iceland. Her expression changed. What? Take the assignment if you want it. I am not asking you to make your life smaller so I can feel safer. Rain whispered against the station windows behind her. Then why are you here? I swallowed. Because I spent 26 years confusing love with certainty. I do not want to do that again. I do not know what happens to us in 3 months or 3 years, but I know I want the chance to find out. Rachel stared at me. My heart pounded, but I kept going. I am asking whether there is room in your life for me. She looked down, then laughed softly through eyes that had suddenly become bright. You really picked the worst possible time to become brave. I am new at this. I noticed. She stepped closer. I called the magazine this morning. I changed the contract. My stomach dropped. Because of me? Because of me. She held my gaze. The original assignment was 12 months. I accepted 3. I realized I kept calling movement freedom because staying anywhere meant risking another loss. Her voice softened. I am tired of living like everything I love is already leaving. I reached for her hand. 3 months is still 3 months. I know. And I still have no idea what I am doing. Neither do I. This time that answer felt like possibility instead of danger. Rachel touched my cheek gently, giving me enough time to step away. I did not. Our first kiss was brief and tender, more promise than certainty. When we separated, I was smiling. You are not photographing this. I would never. 3 months later, I stood inside Portland Union Station beneath the same high ceiling where I had once checked my ticket 4 times. I had returned to substitute teaching 2 days a week. I had joined a writing group. I had taken myself to dinner alone and discovered that solitude and loneliness were not the same thing. Rachel and I had learned time zones, imperfect phone calls, missed connections, and the strange intimacy of sending photographs across an ocean. Then I saw her coming through the station carrying the same worn camera bag. She stopped when she saw me. Still going in the right direction? She asked. I think so. Rachel lifted her camera. Months earlier I would have turned away. Instead, I looked directly into the lens. Click. Then she lowered it and came toward me. I finally understood that finding yourself does not mean knowing exactly where the journey ends. Sometimes it means choosing the direction that feels like your own, then having the courage to keep moving. Thank you for spending this journey with me. If this story stayed with you, please subscribe to the channel and share it with someone who might need a reminder that a new beginning can arrive at any age, sometimes in the most unexpected place.